accuse Roy Moore of sexual misconduct as a new poll shows him trailing. And Moore's attorneys go after one of his accusers. Their demand issued late today. Also tonight, Ivanka Trump with strong words on this scandal. A grisly discovery after that shooting rampage in California, what police found under the gunman's house. And tonight, school officials being hailed as heroes, how their quick thinking saved lives. 3 UCLA basketball stars back on American soil saying sorry and getting suspended after President Trump intervenes to free them from a legal mess in China. A new alert for parents about schools being hacked and children's personal information held for ransom. A frightening crime spree, what you can do to protect your kids. And a Thanksgiving salvo in the grocery wars. Amazon versus Walmart in a food fight for your money. How low will prices go?
This is NBC Nightly News with Lester Holt.
Good evening and welcome. With national support from his own party crumbling around him in the face of sordid accusations, Alabama's embattled Republican Senate candidate Roy Moore is clinging to the support he still has where it counts, at home, where state party officials are standing by him and spurning calls among congressional Republicans urging Moore to drop out of the race. And tonight there is late word of another accuser stepping forward against him. Our Gabe Gutierrez is in Alabama with the latest.
Tonight, Roy Moore's campaign is standing firm.
Release the yearbook so that we can determine, is it genuine or is it a fraud?
Beverly Young Nelson claims Moore signed her yearbook shortly before the alleged assault, but the campaign now says it's a forgery and may have been lifted from a divorce case Judge Moore presided over. Late today, a sixth accuser came forward publicly, telling AL.com Moore groped her at his law office in 1991 when she was 28. NBC News could not immediately reach her for comment. Moore strongly denies the allegations, first reported in the Washington Post, of sexual encounters with teenage girls when he was in his 30s.
Obviously, I've made a few people mad. I'm the only one that can unite Democrats and Republicans, because I seem to be opposed by both.
Should Roy Moore resign, Mr. President?
Though the president declined to answer questions today about the scandal, Ivanka Trump is weighing in for the first time, telling the Associated Press there's a special place in hell for people who prey on children. I have no reason to doubt the victims' accounts. Fox News host Sean Hannity seeming to back away from Moore.
For me, the judge has 24 hours. You must immediately and fully come up with a satisfactory explanation for your inconsistencies.
Moore is being outspent 11-1 in Alabama, and one poll has him now trailing by 12 points.
I refuse to vote for Roy Moore at all.
But as the RNC yanks its resources from the state,
the Alabama GOP is doing what we do best.
Local GOP officials are sticking by Moore.
We do not care what Washington, D.C. thinks or wants us to do.
The race ahead of the special election December 12th could get ugly. A pastor receiving a robocall from someone pretending to be a Washington Post reporter, offering to pay for damaging remarks about Roy Moore.
For a reward of between $5,000 and $7,000. We will not be fully investigating these claims.
The Post responding, "We are shocked and appalled that anyone would stoop to this level to discredit real journalism." Late today, Gloria Allred, who represents accuser Beverly Young Nelson, said her client was willing to testify at a Senate hearing under oath if Roy Moore would do the same. Meanwhile, Alabama GOP officials are meeting tonight to discuss the path forward, and all indications are that they will continue to support their controversial candidate. Lester?
All right, Gabe Gutierrez in Alabama tonight. Thank you. Now to a shocking set of new details in that shooting rampage in Northern California. The death toll has now risen to 6. After police made a grim discovery at the killer's home. And we're learning more about the heroic actions taken by staffers at a school that was among the gunman's targets. NBC's Steve Patterson has the latest.
The killing spree started at the shooter's own home. Police now believe the suspect, identified as 44-year-old Kevin Neal, murdered his wife before going on a rampage.
We're confident that he murdered her probably late Monday and literally just put her body in the floor and covered it up.
Tuesday morning, the gunman opened fire at least 7 locations, randomly targeting homes, vehicles, killing 5 people, 10 more injured.
I was looking out the window, and all of a sudden, there was just like, pap, 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 pap.
During the rampage, Neal drove to Rancho Tehama Elementary School.
We would have had a horrific bloodbath in that school if that school hadn't taken the action when they did.
Staff at the school being hailed as heroes for their quick thinking, putting the school on lockdown right away.
This is every educator in America's worst nightmare. The lockdown procedure was implemented flawlessly.
The gunman crashed his vehicle through the school's locked gate before firing dozens of shots into classrooms. 6-year-old Alejandro Hernandez was shot in the foot and chest.
He's tiny. He's in first grade, and it's like, why would somebody go for the kids?
Neil's sister, Sheridan Orr, says he was mentally unstable.
It was scary, and it was so sad, too, because you knew he couldn't control it.
More than 100 officers responded to the shooting. Neil was shot dead in a standoff on the side of the road. Steve Patterson, NBC News, Rancho Tehama, California.
Fresh from a whirlwind tour through Asia, President Trump spoke at the White House late today, touting what he sees as the accomplishments of the trip that was partly overshadowed by turmoil back here at home. For more, let's turn to NBC News White House correspondent Kristen Welker. Kristen, good evening.
Lester, good evening to you. President Trump took a victory lap today. In a nearly 25-minute speech here at the White House, the president insisted his 12-day trip to Asia was a success. Mr. Trump clearly frustrated by headlines that suggested he didn't secure any concrete results. The president saying his trip laid the groundwork among allies in the region to get tougher against North Korea and to pursue fairer trade deals.
With dozens of foreign The momentum from our trip will launch us on our continued effort to accomplish the 3 core objectives I outlined: to unite the world against North Korean nuclear threat, to promote a free and open Indo-Pacific region, and to advance fair and reciprocal economic relations with our trading partners and allies in the region.
There were no new announcements today, but the president again reiterated that time is running out when it comes to North Korea and again said all options are on the table. Now, tomorrow, President Trump will shift the focus to his domestic agenda. He heads to Capitol Hill, where he'll meet with House Republicans as they push for tax reform. Lester.
All right, Kristen Welker at the White House, thank you. And when the president gets to the Hill, he'll find high drama as the fight over taxes runs up against the battle over Obamacare. Republicans adding a repeal of Obamacare's requirement that most people purchase health insurance into the tax bill. The Congressional Budget Office says eliminating the so-called individual mandate would save $338 billion over 10 years. But it would also mean 13 million fewer would be insured. And tonight there are signs of cracks in the GOP push, with some senators voicing concerns. NBC's Casey Hunt has the latest.
After failing 3 times to repeal Obamacare, Senate Republicans are trying part of it again, adding a repeal of the individual mandate to buy health insurance to their tax plan.
The individual mandate of Obamacare is the most unpopular part of Obamacare. 2/3 of the American people hate it.
Arkansas Senator Tom Cotton played a key role in selling the plan to the president, starting with an October 29th phone call.
Called me back a couple days later and said, I'm 100% for it. I'm 1,000% for it. And
I heard he said, I love it. I love it.
He said that he loved it. He wanted to confirm, though, with his team. He did. And then he says 100% for it. Tell everyone.
President Trump tweeting this week, now how about ending the unfair and highly unpopular individual mandate in Ocare? If it succeeds, millions on Obamacare could face higher premiums.
Everybody needs to be in the pool to keep prices down. By letting younger and healthier people out of the markets, costs will inevitably go up for older and sicker people who remain.
The idea makes some moderate Republicans nervous.
If we start getting into health care issues with the individual mandate, that we send a very mixed message.
Speaker Paul Ryan planning a vote Thursday on the House version of the plan, which doesn't touch Obamacare.
Of course we don't like the individual mandate, but right now we're just focused purely on tax reform from the tax code side.
But tonight, signs of trouble in the Senate. Wisconsin Republican Senator Ron Johnson already announcing he's a no on the tax plan. Casey Hunt, NBC News, the Capitol.
A trio of UCLA basketball stars is back home on American soil after getting caught up in a legal drama in China that led President Trump to intervene after they were caught shoplifting and facing up to a decade in prison. Tonight, they're saying sorry and getting suspended, as NBC's Joe Fryer reports.
3 UCLA basketball players now trying to rebound off the court.
I'm grateful to be back home, and I'll never make a mistake like this again.
Today, Cody Riley, LiAngelo Ball, and Jalen Hill offered their first statement since they were arrested in China for shoplifting.
I take full responsibility for the mistake I have made, shoplifting.
What I did was stupid. There's just no other way to put it.
UCLA now says the freshmen are suspended indefinitely from the team while the school investigates. The players returned to Los Angeles yesterday, released from China with help from the White House.
What they did was unfortunate. You're talking about very long prison sentences. They do not play games.
President Trump spoke to China's president about the incident. The White House says that, along with diplomatic efforts by the State Department, led to a reduction in charges. Before the players' news conference today, the president tweeted, "Do you think the 3 UCLA basketball players will say thank you, President Trump? They were headed for 10 years in jail."
I would also like to thank President Trump and the United States government.
LiAngelo is a member of the high-profile Ball family, one of 3 fast-rising athletes relentlessly promoted by their father, LeVar. The oldest brother, Lonzo, is a rookie with the LA Lakers.
I didn't exercise my best judgment.
But tonight, the spotlight is on LiAngelo, and 2 of his teammates were apologizing for their actions overseas. Joe Fryer, NBC News.
In Florida, police have released new video of the suspect of the possible serial killings terrorizing Tampa. They believe new images taken right before the 4th and most recent killing show the same person caught on camera near the scene of the first murder last month. Authorities are still asking for the public's help, and they're raising the reward to $91,000. Now to a chilling warning about our schools. Cyber criminals are targeting them all across the nation, threatening to harm our children and holding their personal information for ransom. So what are school officials doing about it? NBC's Stephanie Gosk has the story.
Columbia Falls, Montana sits at the foot of Glacier National Park. Quiet and safe, or at least that's how it felt until they started getting the text messages.
The threats were mostly about killing children and in graphic ways that they were going to kill the children.
The school district's computers were hacked by a group calling itself the Dark Overlord. Law enforcement officials began negotiating with the cyber criminals over their demands, but they grew increasingly alarmed because they realized that the school security cameras had been hacked and the group was watching. Authorities soon realized the cyber criminals were just after a ransom in exchange for not releasing students' social security numbers, addresses, and phone numbers.
The thing that I dread the most is, will they dump this information? Will they impact some kid or some child to the point that that child could be emotionally damaged for the rest of their life?
Cyber criminals are constantly combing the internet for vulnerabilities, and some school districts with little to invest in computer security can be easy targets.
These organized crime groups have recognized that the mere threat to harm children or their credit records gets a response, and people are willing to pay in order to protect those records and the children.
After a rash of attacks from Iowa to Texas to Georgia, the FBI is asking school districts across the country to make sure cybersecurity is a priority.
It needs to be a budget item every year. At the end of the day, they are protecting the country's most important asset and resource, and that's our children.
In Columbia Falls, after meeting with families and working with the FBI, the district decided not to pay. That was followed by more threatening texts.
Does it continue to feel just like a power play, to just show how helpless you and your community are to them?
Absolutely. It's about power and it's about fear.
Amy Squire's daughter is in kindergarten.
Why? Why us? Why is this happening to us?
Changes your perspective on everything, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Cyber criminals prove again they will target anyone and anywhere. Even a place like this is at risk.
Lester, the parents in Columbia Falls are being told to follow their children's credit reports because that information is never coming back. But, you know, this is actually a cautionary tale for all of us. Our children's information is vulnerable just like ours. We need to secure it the same way we secure our own.
Yeah, last thing the schools need to be dealing with, though, given all their issues. Thank you. A raging inferno today in St. Louis. Firefighters battling a 5-alarm fire at a warehouse with 150,000 citronella candles inside. A huge plume of black smoke billowing over the city. Seen for miles, the fire so huge it's still burning. Crews are trying to put out the flames late into the evening. Just ahead as we continue.